I only noticed the figure because the crows lifted all at once. 3 weeks running, same spot, kilometre marker 187, 20 minutes past 10 on a Thursday morning. The mail run from Marla to Udnadata is 400 kilometres of dirt and corrugations, and after 6 years I know every washout, every stock grid, every place the road narrows where you've got to pick your line or risk a puncture. I know where the wedge tails sit on fence posts, and where the roos bed down in the shade of the few trees still standing, but I didn't know about the figure until 3 weeks ago. He was standing maybe 10 meters off the road, right beside the marker, wearing what looked like a wide-brimmed hat and dark clothes, just standing there. No ute, no swag, no water container I could see. The heat that day was pushing 42, and the air above the red dirt was bending in waves. I had the window down because the air con in the Land Cruiser had been dodgy since Marla, and when I saw him, I felt the back of my neck go cold despite the heat. I took my foot off the accelerator, slowed to maybe 60, and leaned forward to get a better look. That's when I glanced back at the road for half a second, just long enough to check the line, and when I looked again he was gone. Not walking away, not ducking into the scrub. Just gone. I told myself it was the heat haze, that I'd imagined the shape, that 6 hours on a dirt road does things to your eyes. I finished the run, dropped the mail at Udnadata, refueled, and drove back the same route the next day. Kilometre marker 187 was empty. The second Thursday I wasn't even thinking about it. I had a esky full of perishables for the Hamiltons at William Creek and a carton of medical supplies for the clinic, and I was running 20 minutes late because of a blown tire near Aljabakina. The crows lifted again just before the marker, black shapes scattering against the white sky, and there he was, same spot, same stance, same wide-brimmed hat. This time I was ready. I braked hard, pulled onto the shoulder and got out. The heat hit me like a wall, and the flies were thick enough that I had to keep my mouth shut. I walked around the front of the Land Cruiser, shaded my eyes, and looked straight at him. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't call out, didn't shift his weight. I couldn't make out his face under the brim of the hat, but I could see he was tall, maybe 6 foot, lean build, and he was facing the road. Facing me. I took 3 steps toward him, and the road surface under my boots was soft with dust. "You right, mate?" I called. No response. "You need water? Lift somewhere?" Nothing. The air between us bent and shimmered, and for a moment I thought I saw him flicker, like a bad TV signal. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and when I looked again, he was gone. Not turned away, not collapsed, not walked off, just absent, like he'd been a trick of the light all along. I stood there for maybe 2 minutes, feeling the beras sunbake the top of my head, listening to the flies hum and the faint tick of the Land Cruiser's engine cooling. Then I walked back to the vehicle and kept driving. That night, I sat in the caravan behind the roadhouse in Marla and thought about calling someone. Kath Green, the sergeant at the police station, or maybe Barry at the clinic. But what would I say? That I'd seen a bloke standing by the road who vanished when I blinked? That the heat and the long hours were getting to me? I decided to wait. Third Thursday, I left Marla at 8:30 sharp, earlier than usual, and I kept the speed down as I approached marker 187. The crows were already circling, high up, and I saw the figure before I reached the marker. Same place, same posture. This time, I didn't stop. I slowed to 40 and kept my eyes locked on him as I passed, no more than 15 meters away. I could see the hat was old leather, sweat-stained and cracked, and the clothes were work gear, faded blue shirt, dark trousers, boots caked in red dust. His hands hung loose at his sides, and his head was tilted slightly, like he was listening. I couldn't see his face. The shadow from the brim cut a hard line across where his features should have been. I kept driving, watched him in the side mirror until the dust cloud rose behind me and blocked the view. When I got to Udnadata, I parked outside the pub and sat with the engine off for 10 minutes, hands still on the wheel. A couple of blokes loading gear onto a ute gave me a look, and I nodded back like everything was fine. That night I drove back, same route, and the marker was empty again. Fourth Thursday I was ready to let it go. Maybe it was someone from one of the properties off-grid, walking the long way, catching a ride somewhere I didn't see. Maybe it was heat stroke, or eye strain, or the beginning of something I didn't want to name, but when I got to marker 187, the figure wasn't there. The crows were still circling, and I slowed out of habit. That's when I saw the boot tracks. They started right where he'd been standing, clear prints in the soft dirt at the edge of the road, and they led off into the scrub heading west. I stopped the Land Cruiser, got out, and crouched beside the first print. It was fresh, maybe hours old, the edges sharp, and the tread pattern visible. Size 10 or 11, work boots, deep heel strike like someone carrying weight. The tracks were evenly spaced, no drag, no stumble. Whoever made them had walked with purpose. I followed them for maybe 20 meters, far enough to see they didn't curve back toward the road. They just kept going, straight into the Spinifex and Mulga, toward country I knew was empty for at least 30 kilometers. No bores, no dams, no homesteads I'd ever heard of. I stood there with the sun climbing, and the flies thick in my ears, and I thought about following. Then I thought about the mail still in the back, the schedule, the fact that I had no water to spare, and no business walking into the scrub on a hunch. I took a photo of the prints with my phone, got back in the Land Cruiser, and kept driving. When I got to Marla that afternoon, I went straight to the police station. Kath Green was at her desk, paperwork spread in front of her, a cup of tea gone cold beside the keyboard. She looked up when I knocked, waved me in. "Des," she said, "you look cooked. Sit down before you fall down." I sat, and I told her everything. The figure, the 3 weeks, the vanishing, the tracks. She didn't interrupt, didn't smile, didn't write anything down until I was finished. Then she leaned back in her chair and looked at me for a long moment. "You sure about this?" she asked. "I'm sure about the tracks," I said. "The rest, I don't know what I saw." She nodded slowly, tapped her pen against the desk. "All right," she said. "Next Thursday, I'll ride with you. We'll follow those tracks if they're still there, see what we find." I felt something loosen in my chest, something I hadn't realized was tight. "Thanks, Kath," she shrugged. "It's my job. And if someone's out there on foot in this heat, we need to know." I left the station and drove back to the caravan, and that night I lay awake, listening to the generator hum and thinking about the figure's hands, hanging loose and still at his sides. Thursday came around again, and I met Kath at the servo in Marla just after dawn. She was standing beside her white Ford Ranger, flask in one hand, sunglasses pushed up on her head. She'd brought a day pack, water bottles strapped to the outside, and a UHF radio clipped to her belt. "You right to lead?" she asked. "Yeah, same route as always." She nodded, climbed into the Ranger, and we headed out in convoy. The drive to marker 187 took just over 2 hours, and I spent most of it watching the road and the scrub on both sides, looking for the figure, even though I knew he wouldn't be there. When we reached the marker, I slowed, pulled over onto the shoulder, and Kath stopped behind me. We got out and walked to the spot where I'd seen the tracks the week before. They were still there. Fainter now, the wind and a bit of overnight dew had softened the edges, but the line was clear enough. Boot prints heading west, same spacing, same depth. Kath crouched beside them, studied the tread pattern, then stood and looked toward the scrub. "You reckon he's still out there?" she asked. "Don't know. But someone walked this way." She pulled her pack on, checked the radio, and glanced back at me. "We go slow. We keep line of sight with the vehicles for as long as we can, and if it gets rough we turn back." "Agreed?" "Agreed." We started walking. The ground was hard red dirt for the first 100 meters, then it gave way to sand, and low spinifex that caught at our boots. The tracks stayed visible, a clear line through the scrub, and whoever had made them hadn't wandered or hesitated. The sun climbed and the heat pressed down, and after half an hour we stopped to drink water and check our bearings. Kath pulled out a GPS unit, marked our position, and looked at the map on the screen. "Nothing out here on record," she said. "No stations, no bores, no old lease boundaries." "Could be something that's not mapped," I said. "Could be." We kept going. The scrub thickened, mulga trees casting thin shadows that didn't offer much relief. The tracks led us around a low rise, then down into a shallow gully where the sand was softer and the prints were deeper. I could see where the person had paused here, the boot marks closer together, weight shifted, like they'd stopped to rest or look back. Kath noticed it too, pointed to the marks without saying anything. We climbed out of the gully, and the land opened up again, flat and red, and dotted with saltbush. And that's when I saw the roof. It was low, corrugated iron gone rust brown, barely visible above the scrub line maybe half a kilometer ahead. Kath saw it too, stopped, shaded her eyes. "Homestead," she said quietly. "Thought there was nothing out here." "There isn't, Not on any map I've seen. We approached slowly, following the tracks straight toward the building. As we got closer, I could make out more detail: a single-story structure, weathered timber walls, a sagging veranda on the north side, a rusted water tank leaning on a crumbling stand. The place looked old, abandoned, the kind of building you'd expect to be full of dust and dead air. But as we stepped into the cleared yard, I saw something that made my skin prickle. Smoke. Thin, pale smoke rising from a chimney pipe on the western end of the roof. Kath saw it too, put a hand on my arm, stopped me. "Someone's here," she said. We stood there for a moment, listening. No sound except the wind in the spinifex and the faint creak of the tank. Kath unclipped her radio, keyed it, spoke quietly. "Marla Base, this is Green. We've located a structure approximately 6 kilometers west of marker 187 on the mail route. No identification visible. Smoke from chimney indicates occupancy. Proceeding with caution." Static, then a voice. "Copy that, Green, stay safe." She clipped the radio back, looked at me. "You stay behind me. If I tell you to go, you go. Clear?" "Clear." We crossed the yard, our boots crunching on the hard dirt, and climbed the steps to the veranda. The boards were grey and warped, but they held our weight. Kath knocked on the doorframe, called out. "Police, anyone home?" No answer. She knocked again, louder. "This is Sergeant Green, South Australia Police. We need to speak with the occupant." Still nothing. She tried the door handle and it turned. The door swung inward and we stepped inside. The smell hit me first: wood smoke and something else, faint and sweet, like bread. The interior was dim, light filtering through gaps in the walls, and a single dirty window on the far side. We were standing in a main room, a rough kitchen on the left, a table in the center, a fireplace against the right wall with embers still glowing. And on the table, a loaf of bread. Fresh. The crust was golden, the surface still faintly warm when Kath touched it with the back of her hand. Beside it, a jar of jam, the lid off, a butter knife resting across the rim. On the other side of the table, 3 candles in old glass holders, the wicks burned down but still alight, wax pooled around the bases. Kath looked at me, then back at the table. "This was made today," she said. "Maybe this morning." I walked further into the room, looked around. Against the back wall there was a swag rolled out on the floor, a blanket folded at one end, a pair of boots beside it. The same boots, I thought. Same tread, same size. On a shelf above the swag there were a few tins of food, a water bottle, a box of matches. Kath moved to the fireplace, crouched beside it, looked at the coals. "Still hot. Whoever's here hasn't been gone long." I walked to the window, looked out at the yard. Nothing moved. Just the scrub and the sky and the tank creaking in the breeze. "Des." I turned. Kath was standing beside a narrow door on the far side of the room, her hand on the frame. "There's more back here." I crossed to her and she pushed the door open. It led to a smaller room, darker, the walls lined with old shelves. On the shelves, books and papers, stacked in rough piles. Kath pulled a torch from her pack, clicked it on, swept the beam across the shelves. Most of the books were old, spines cracked, covers faded. Station logs by the look of them. She pulled one down, opened it carefully, and I looked over her shoulder. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded but legible. Dates from the early 90s, entries about rainfall, stock numbers, bore repairs. The handwriting was neat, slanted, consistent. At the top of the first page, a name: Jack Morrow, Tin Creek Station. Kath flipped through a few more pages, then set the book down, and pulled another from a different stack. This one was newer, the cover less worn. She opened it, and I saw the same handwriting, the same slant, but the dates were different, recent. "This year." She read aloud, her voice low. "March 15th. Saw the mail truck pass today. Same time, same day. He doesn't stop." She flipped forward a few pages. "April 6th. Stood by the marker. He saw me, I think, looked right at me before the road bent." Another page. "April 20th. 3rd week. He slowed down this time, watched me in the mirror. Won't be long now. Kath stopped reading, closed the book, looked at me. Her face was pale in the torchlight. This doesn't make sense, she said. I didn't answer. I was staring at the date on the book's inside cover, written in the same neat hand, Jack Morrow, 2024. I took the book from her hand, turned the pages slowly. The handwriting didn't waver, didn't change. Every entry was dated this year, every one written in the same careful script. Some were only a line or two, others filled half a page. All of them were about the mail run, about the road, about me. I set the book down, looked at Kath. Jack Morrow's been dead 20 years, I said. She nodded, her jaw tight. I know. So who wrote this? She didn't answer straight away. She pulled another book from the shelf, opened it, skimmed the first few pages. This one's from 2001, she said. Same handwriting. Entries about the drought, the stock dying, being alone out here. She closed it, put it back. Last entry's in October 2003. Says he's not feeling well, hasn't seen anyone in 6 weeks. She looked at me. That's when he died. Coroner found him in November, said he'd been gone a month at least. I glanced back at the newer book, the one with this year's dates. Then someone's copying his writing, I said. Has to be. Kath picked up the recent book again, held it under the torchlight, studied the ink. It's not a photocopy, she said. It's handwritten, fresh. You can see where the pen pressed harder on some letters. She turned a page, ran her finger along the edge. And the paper's not old. This book's been used in the last few months. I walked to the doorway, leaned against the frame, tried to think it through. Someone was living here, that much was obvious. Fresh food, burning candles, a swag laid out, but why take an old man's handwriting, his name, his words? Why stand beside the road 3 weeks running, waiting to be seen? Kath moved past me, back into the main room. She went to the table, looked at the bread again, touched the crust. Still soft, she said. She picked up one of the candles, tilted it, watched the wax run. These were lit this morning, maybe earlier. Whoever's here, they're close. I stepped to the door, looked out at the yard. The sun was lower now, the shadows longer. The scrub looked thicker in the fading light, the spaces between the trees darker. No movement, no sound except the wind and the tank. We should wait, Kath said behind me. See if they come back. I turned. Shook my head. We don't know who we're dealing with. Could be someone unstable, could be what? She said. A ghost? I didn't answer. She crossed her arms, looked at the table, the candles, the bread. Someone's squatting here, she said. Living off-grid, maybe dodging something. That's not unusual this far out. Then why the diary? I said. Why write about me, about the mail run? She didn't have an answer for that. I moved to the shelves, looked at the old logs again, pulled one down, opened it to a random page. Abyss again, entry from 1992, neat and factual, bore 3 running dry, considering deepening, stock count down to 400 head, price of diesel up again. I closed it, set it back. Jack Morrow ran this place alone for years, I said. After his wife left, after the drought hit, he didn't have kids, didn't have family. Kath nodded. I read the file before we came out. He was found in the main bedroom, malnutrition and dehydration, no foul play. I looked at the recent diary again, the one with my name scattered through the entries. So who's pretending to be him? Kath walked to the window, stood beside me, both of us scanning the yard. Maybe someone who knew him, she said. Someone who came here after he died, found his things, started using his identity. Out here? I said. Why? She shrugged. Same reason anyone disappears. Debt, trouble, grief, take your pick. I turned back to the room, the swag, the boots, the shelf with its few tins of food. It didn't feel like hiding, it felt like waiting. Kath checked her watch, then her radio. Static, nothing else. We're too far out, she said. Can't reach Marla from here. She clipped the radio back to her belt, looked at me. I want to stay till dusk, see if anyone comes back. If not, we'll lock it down, come back tomorrow with more people. I nodded, though the idea of staying made my skin crawl. We moved outside, stood in the yard where we could see the track, the scrub, the veranda. The air was cooler now, the heat bleeding out of the day. Kath leaned against the fence, arms folded, her eyes on the tree line. I walked to the tank, looked up at the blades turning slowly in the wind. The shadows stretched across the dirt, long and thin. A crow called somewhere in the scrub, a rough, grating sound that faded fast. We waited. The sun touched the horizon, the sky turning orange and pink, the light going soft and low. Nothing moved in the scrub, no sound, except the wind and the tank, and the distant hum of the earth settling into night. Kath pushed off the fence, walked to the veranda steps, looked back at me. "Whoever it is, they're not coming back tonight," she said. I didn't argue. We went back inside, checked the rooms one more time. Kath took the recent diary, slipped it into her pack. "Evidence," she said. I looked at the table, the bread, the candles still burning. "Should we put those out?" I asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "Leave it how we found it. I want them to know we've been here." We stepped outside, pulled the door closed behind us. Kath tried the handle, made sure it latched, then turned to the yard. The light was almost gone now, the scrub a wall of shadow. We walked back to the track, retraced our steps through the trees. The silence felt heavier than before, pressing in from all sides. When we reached the ute, Kath stopped, turned back toward the homestead. It was just visible through the scrub, a dark shape against the fading sky. "I'll get a crew out here tomorrow," she said. "Dust for prints, search the property properly." I nodded, climbed into the driver's seat. She got in beside me, pulled her seatbelt on, stared out the windscreen. "Des," she said, her voice quiet. "Yeah? You ever hear stories about this place, about Tin Creek?" I thought for a moment, shook my head. "Not that I remember. It's been empty so long, most people forget it's here." She nodded slowly, her eyes still on the scrub. "That diary," she said. "The way it talks about you. Like you were chosen." I started the engine, let it idle. "I don't know what that means," I said. She turned to look at me, her face pale in the dashboard light. "Neither do I," she said. "But I don't like it." I put the ute in gear, turned us back toward the mail route. The track was rough, the headlights cutting through the dark, catching spinifex and trees and the red dust rising behind us. Neither of us spoke. When we reached the road, I stopped, looked both ways out of habit even though nothing ever came through here at night. Kath pulled out her notebook, wrote something down, then closed it and tucked it into her pack. "I'll call you tomorrow," she said, "let you know what we find." I nodded, turned the ute south toward Marla. The road stretched ahead, empty and black, the stars beginning to show overhead. I glanced in the mirror once, back toward the scrub, toward Tin Creek Station hidden somewhere in the dark. Nothing moved, nothing followed. But the feeling stayed with me all the way back, the weight of those words in the diary, the careful script, the dates that shouldn't exist, waiting for the right one to see me. I didn't sleep much that night, kept seeing the candles, the bread, the swag rolled out like someone had just stepped away for a smoke. The diary pages replaying in my head, that neat handwriting, the dates that made no sense. By morning I was sitting on the veranda of the roadhouse with a mug of tea, watching the sky turn from gray to pale blue, trying to convince myself there'd be a simple explanation. Kath rang just after 8. "We're heading out in 20, she said. "Found something?" "Not yet, but I want you there when we do." I met her at the station, her and 2 officers I'd seen around but didn't know well. Young blokes, looked fresh out of the academy, trying hard not to seem nervous. We took 2 vehicles, Kath and me in the front ute, the others following behind. The drive felt longer this time, the scrub closing in tighter, the track more rutted. When we reached the clearing, I felt my chest go tight, same as the day before. The homestead sat waiting, silent, the door still closed where we'd left it. Kath killed the engine, climbed out, stood looking at the place for a long moment before speaking. "Right," she said to the others. "I want every room photographed, every surface dusted, every drawer and cupboard searched. We're looking for anything that tells us who's been here and when." The younger officers nodded, pulled on gloves, started unloading equipment from the back of their ute. I stayed near the vehicles, watching, feeling like an intruder now that it was official. Kath came over, handed me a pair of gloves. "You're with me," she said. We went inside together, the air still holding that faint smell of smoke and dust. One of the officers started with the kitchen, photographing the bread, the candles, the cup beside the sink. The other took the bedroom, carefully lifting the swag, checking, underneath, running his torch along the floorboards. Kath and I went back to the study. She pulled the diary from her pack, set it on the desk, opened it to the last entry. "I want to find the rest," she said. "The rest? This can't be the only record. If someone's been living here, there'll be more." We started searching, methodical and slow. The desk drawers first, then the shelves, then the cupboard in the corner that I'd missed yesterday. It was full of old station records, faded ledgers, boxes of receipts and letters dating back decades. Kath pulled them out one by one, checking dates, setting aside anything recent. Near the back, tucked behind a stack of yellowed newspapers, she found a metal box. Locked, no key. She carried it to the desk, tried the drawers again, ran her fingers along the underside of each one. Nothing. Then she stopped, looked at the diary, flipped back to the first page. "There," she said, pointing. A small key, taped to the inside cover, so flat, I'd missed it entirely. She peeled it free, fitted it to the lock. It turned with a soft click. Inside were more journals, 5 of them, identical to the first. Kath opened the earliest, checked the first entry. March 2019, 4 years ago. She flipped through slowly, scanning the pages, her face unreadable. "What's it say?" I asked. She didn't answer right away, just kept reading, turning pages, her finger tracing lines of text. Finally, she stopped, looked up at me. "It's all him," she said. "All written by the same person, same handwriting, covering the last 4 years. Entries about the station, the weather, repairs he's made, supplies he's brought in. And you. He mentions you starting about 6 months ago." My throat felt dry. "What does he say?" She turned the journal toward me, pointed to a passage dated October last year. "Saw the mail ute again today. Driver's the same bloke, always Thursday, always mid-morning. Stops at the marker sometimes, checks his load, drinks from his thermos. Doesn't look around much, doesn't see me yet. But he will. I can wait." I read it twice, the words, cold and deliberate. Kath opened another journal, found a page near the middle. "Here," she said. "January this year. Stood closer to the road today. Let him see me properly. He looked away, looked back. I was gone. Not time yet. But soon. He's got the right feel about him, steady, doesn't panic, doesn't ask too many questions. He'll understand when it's ready." I stepped back from the desk, felt the walls of the room pressing in. "This is insane," I said. Kath kept reading, flipping between journals, cross-referencing dates. "Des," she said, her voice tight. "The first entry in the earliest journal, it's dated 2 months after Jack Morrow died." I stared at her. "That's not possible." "I know," she said, "but look." She turned the journal around again, showed me the date, the handwriting identical to everything else. Neat, and careful, and impossible. First day back. Took me longer than I thought. "The place is worse than I remember. Tank rusted through, roof half gone, veranda sagging. But it's still here. Still mine. I can fix it. I can wait here. Someone will come eventually, someone who needs to see." Kath closed the journal, set it down with the others, pulled off her gloves. "We need to get these analyzed," she said. "Handwriting, paper, ink, dating if we can manage it." One of the officers appeared in the doorway, holding a plastic evidence bag. "Sarge," he said. "Found this in the kitchen." Inside the bag was a wallet, leather, worn smooth with age. Kath took it, opened it carefully. Inside was a driver's license, expired, issued in 1998. The photo showed a man in his 50s, weathered face, hard eyes, no smile. The name read, John Malcolm Morrow. Jack. Kath turned the license over, checked the other cards in the wallet. Medicare, pension card, both expired, all matching the same name. "Nothing recent?" she asked the officer. "No, Sarge, just that." She handed it back, told him to bag it properly, add it to the evidence log. When he left, she sat down in the desk chair, stared at the journals. "This doesn't make sense," she said, more to herself than me. "Jack Morrow died in 2003. These entries start in 2019. Same handwriting, same voice. Could be a son, I said. Someone who knew him learned to copy his writing. Why? She asked. Why go to this much effort? Why live out here in secret for 4 years? Why watch you? I didn't have an answer. She stood, gathered the journals, placed them carefully in an evidence bag. We're taking all of this back to the station, she said. I'll get records on Jack Morrow, see if he had any family, anyone who might have had access to this place. We walked back outside, the sunlight harsh, after the dim interior. The officers were finishing up, sealing bags, labeling boxes. Kath gave them instructions, told them to secure the site, lock the door, leave tape across the frame. No one comes back here without me, she said. They nodded, loaded the last of the equipment. I stood by my ute, looking at the homestead one more time. It looked smaller now, less threatening in the full light of day, just an old weathered building, paint peeling, iron roof rusting through. But the feeling was still there, the sense of being watched, of something waiting just out of sight. Kath came over, leaned against the ute beside me. I'll call you when I know more, she said. Could be a few days. Right, I said. Des, she said, her voice quieter now. If you see that figure again, if anything feels wrong on your route, you call me straight away. Don't stop, don't approach. I nodded, climbed into the ute, started the engine. She watched me go, standing in the clearing, with her arms crossed, the homestead behind her. I drove back to the mail route, turned north toward the next delivery point, tried to focus on the road. But my mind kept circling back to those journals, those careful entries, the dates that couldn't be real. And the question Kath hadn't asked, but I knew she was thinking, what if Jack Morrow never really left? I didn't sleep much that night. Kept thinking about those journals, the handwriting that couldn't belong to a dead man, the way the homestead had felt lived in but empty at the same time. Kath rang 2 days later, said she'd pulled Jack Morrow's records, no children listed anywhere, no living relatives, no one who'd visited him in the years before he died. She'd sent copies of the journals to a handwriting analyst in Adelaide, but that would take weeks. I want you to stay away from that place, she said, until we know more. I told her I would. But Thursday came around again, and I couldn't shake the feeling I needed to go back. Not with police, not with equipment and evidence bags. Just me. The mail route felt longer that week, every kilometer stretching out under a sky gone white with heat. I finished my deliveries by 3, turned the ute around, headed back toward the marker where I'd first seen the figure. The tracks were still visible in the dirt, faint now but readable if you knew where to look. I followed them off the road, across the hardpan, into the scrub. 6 kilometers takes longer when you're driving slow, watching for rocks and hidden drainage channels. The homestead appeared through the mulga just before 4, the sun starting its long slide toward the horizon. I parked in the same clearing, killed the engine, sat for a moment listening to the silence. No wind today, no birds, just the tick of cooling metal and my own breathing. The tape Kath's officers had put across the door was gone, not torn or broken, just gone, like someone had carefully removed it and taken it away. I got out, walked to the veranda, stopped at the bottom step. Anyone here? I called. My voice sounded flat in the still air. No answer. I climbed the steps, pushed the door open, stepped inside. The candles were burning again. Fresh ones, I thought, placed in the same spots as before. The bread was gone from the table, replaced by a tin plate with crumbs on it, a mug beside it still holding the dregs of tea. I walked through the main room, checked the kitchen, the back bedroom. Empty. But the swag in the corner was different, rolled tighter, placed against the wall instead of spread out on the floor. Someone had been here since we left. Someone was living here. I went back to the main room, stood in the center, tried to steady my breathing. Jack? I said. The name felt strange in my mouth. I'm not police, just want to talk. A sound behind me, soft, like boot leather on floorboards. I turned. A man stood in the doorway to the back bedroom. Older, maybe 70, with white hair and a beard gone gray at the edges. He wore work trousers and a faded blue shirt, boots caked with red dust. The wide-brimmed hat I remembered hung from his hand. We stared at each other for a long moment. You came back, he said finally. His voice was quiet, rough, from disuse. I had questions, I said. He nodded slowly, moved into the room, set the hat on the table beside the mug. Most people don't, he said. Most people see something strange and they leave it alone. I'm not most people, I said. He almost smiled at that, pulled out one of the chairs, sat down heavily. Jack Morrow died in 2003. I said, that's what the records say. Records say a lot of things, he replied. Doesn't make them true. I stayed standing, kept my distance. So you're telling me you're Jack Morrow, that you've been out here for 20 years after everyone thinks you're dead? He looked at me, his eyes clear and steady. I'm telling you I never left Tin Creek, he said. I'm telling you the Outback doesn't let go of people as easily as the paperwork suggests. That's not an answer, I said. He picked up the mug, stared into it like he was reading something in the dregs. I had a son, he said. Tom. He left in 89, said he was going to Perth, said he'd come back when he had money. Did he? I asked. No, Jack said. Got a letter in 92 saying he wasn't coming back, that the city suited him better than the dirt. He set the mug down, looked at me again. I wrote him every week after that. Never got another reply, kept writing anyway, kept this place going, kept waiting. And then, I said. And then the drought came. He said. Stock died, water dried up, I ran out of reasons to stay. But I couldn't leave, couldn't just walk away from the only place Tom knew how to find me. He stood, walked to the window, looked out at the scrub. I told myself I'd give it one more year, then one more, then the years stopped meaning much. Jack Morrow died, I repeated. The police have records, a death certificate. I know, he said. There was something in his voice, a weight I couldn't quite place. Then how are you here? I asked. He turned back to me and for a moment, his face looked different, older somehow, like the light had shifted and shown something beneath. Because some of us don't leave even when we're supposed to, he said. Because the Outback keeps what it wants, and sometimes that means a man stays tied to a place long after he should have gone. The air in the room felt colder suddenly. You're saying you're a ghost, I said. The word sounded absurd even as I said it. I'm saying I'm still here, he replied. I'm saying I watched that road for years, hoping to see Tom's ute coming back. And then I saw you instead, week after week, same time, same route, and I thought maybe someone should know this place still matters. I didn't know what to say to that, didn't know if I believed him, or if I was talking to a man who'd lost his grip on reality decades ago. Why me? I asked finally. Why show yourself to me? He shrugged, a tired movement. You looked, he said simply. Most people drive past, eyes on the road, minds somewhere else. But you looked, you saw me. I thought about that, about the 3 Thursdays I'd seen him, standing by the marker, the way he'd been there and then gone like a heat shimmer. What do you want? I asked. He walked back to the table, picked up his hat, ran his fingers along the brim. Nothing, he said. Just wanted someone to know I'm still waiting. That Tin Creek station didn't disappear just because the maps forgot it. And if Tom comes back? I asked. Something crossed his face then, sadness maybe, or acceptance. He won't, Jack said. I know that now, but I can't leave until I stop waiting. And I don't know how to stop. He put the hat on, pulled it low over his eyes. You should go, he said. It'll be dark soon. Road's not safe after sunset. I wanted to ask more, wanted to demand answers that made sense. But I could feel the weight of the silence pressing in, the way the light through the windows had gone amber and strange. Will I see you again? I asked. Maybe, he said. Maybe not. Depends if you're looking. I walked to the door, stopped, turned back. He was standing by the table, one hand resting on the back of the chair, watching me with those clear, steady eyes. I'll leave supplies, I said. Next week, by the marker. If you need them. He nodded slowly. Appreciate it, he said. I left then, walked out into the amber light, climbed into the ute without looking back. Started the engine, turned around, drove back toward the mail route. Behind me, the homestead faded into the scrub, just another weathered building in an empty landscape. I never told Kath what I'd found. Never wrote it down, never tried to explain it to anyone who'd ask questions I couldn't answer. Some things the Outback keeps to itself, and this felt like one of them. I drove the route the following Thursday, same as always. Stopped at kilometer marker 187, left a box by the post. Tinned soup, bread, batteries, couple of water bottles. Sat there in the ute for 10 minutes, engine ticking in the heat, watching the scrub. Nothing moved. No figure in the wide-brimmed hat, no boot prints in the dust, just the empty red dirt stretching toward a horizon that shimmered and bent in the afternoon glare. I drove on. Week after that, I left another box. Checked the first one and it was gone. No sign it had ever been there, except a faint scuff in the dust that could have been anything. I didn't walk out to Tin Creek Station again. Didn't take the tracks through the mulga. Didn't need to see the weathered boards or the candles or the diary with its impossible handwriting. Some questions don't have answers that fit inside the shape of the world we're used to, and I'd learned a long time ago that the Outback doesn't explain itself to anyone. Kath asked me about it once, couple of months later over a beer at the Roadhouse. Said she'd driven out there herself one afternoon, followed the tracks all the way in. Found the homestead standing empty, no fresh food, no candles, no sign anyone had been there in years. She'd walked through the rooms, checked the diary, found the last entry, dated 2003, same as the records showed. "You see anything when you went back?" she asked. I shook my head. "Just an old station," I said. "Empty." She looked at me for a long moment, copper eyes measuring something I couldn't name. "You're lying," she said, "but there was no heat in it." "Maybe." She took a sip of her beer, set it down carefully. "I talked to Tom Morrow's daughter," she said. "Lives in Adelaide now, hasn't been back to Tin Creek since she was a kid. Said her grandfather Jack raised Tom alone after his wife died, that Tom left in 91 and never came home. Jack died waiting for him, died alone in that house in 2003. I didn't say anything. She said Jack used to stand by the road sometimes." Kath continued. "Used to watch for Tom's ute coming over the ridge. Stood there for hours, especially Thursdays, because that's when Tom used to drive into Marla for supplies. She said it broke his heart, all that waiting. I thought about the man I'd seen, the way he'd looked at me with those clear, steady eyes, the way he'd said Tom wasn't coming back but he couldn't stop waiting." "What do you think I should put in my report?" Kath asked. "Whatever lets you sleep," I said. She laughed at that, short and humorless. "I put down that we investigated reports of illegal occupation, found no evidence of recent habitation, case closed. That work for you?" "Yeah," I said. "That works." I kept driving the route, kept leaving supplies by the marker for 6 months. They were always gone by the next week, but I never saw anyone take them, never saw the figure in the hat again. Eventually I stopped leaving them. Felt like whatever had needed to happen had happened, like some circuit had closed or some debt had been paid. I don't know if Jack Morrow found peace, or if he's still out there, standing by kilometer marker 187, waiting for a son who'll never come home. Don't know if what I saw was real or some trick of heat and isolation, and a mind that had spent too long driving empty roads, but I know that the Outback holds on to things the rest of the world lets go. It remembers the stations that failed, and the people who died waiting, and the promises that never got kept. It holds them the way red dirt holds water after rain, deep down where you can't see it but you know it's there. I still drive the mail route every Thursday. Still pass kilometer marker 187, around midday, when the sun is high, and the shadows are short, and the heat makes everything shimmer, like it's not quite solid. I don't stop anymore, don't leave supplies, don't look too long at the scrub line where the tracks used to lead away into the mulga. But sometimes, just for a second, I think I see something in my peripheral vision. A figure standing motionless in a wide-brimmed hat, watching the road. And when I look properly, there's nothing there, just empty red dirt, and spinifex and the endless sky pressing down like a weight. I don't talk about it. Don't tell the story to the other drivers at the Roadhouse, or mention it to Kath when I see her in town. Some things you keep to yourself, things that happened or maybe didn't happen, things that exist in the space between what you saw and what you can prove. The Outback is full of those spaces. Full of stories that don't fit inside the neat lines we draw to make sense of the world. And maybe that's how it should be. Maybe some places are supposed to keep their secrets, supposed to hold on to the people and the waiting and the grief, until time itself forgets to count the years. I reckon Jack Morrow is still out there somewhere, still watching the road, still waiting for Tom to come home, caught in a moment that won't let him go. And I reckon that's his choice to make, not mine. I just drive the mail route. Deliver the letters and parcels to people scattered across a landscape that doesn't care about straight lines or easy answers. And sometimes I think about the homestead at Tin Creek Station, about the candles burning in the empty rooms and the diary with its impossible dates, and the man who knew things only the dead should know. I think about it, and then I let it go. Let the road take it, let the red dirt cover it, let the outback keep its secrets the way it always has. Because that's how you survive out here. You learn what to hold on to, and what to release, what to question, and what to let be. You learn that some roads lead to places that aren't on any map, and some people exist in the spaces between memory and hope, and the weight of years that won't let go. And you keep driving. If you've ever driven the long road at night, you know the silence I'm talking about. The way it presses against the windows, the way your headlights cut through darkness that feels older than time. You know that feeling of being watched, of seeing something in the corner of your eye that disappears when you look straight at it. You know, and you keep driving anyway. Hit like and subscribe. More stories are coming.